How often do we coach situations that could have a huge impact on a match? Welcome, as always, to my tennis coaching. And in today's video, I'm going to discuss situations that affect matches. And this came about last week when I was conducting a lesson over at Batchwood, and the lead coach was getting the players to perform and practice a warm up. It's really interesting because how often do we practice warm ups? Not very. We normally will do a training warm up, which one lasts a lot longer than a traditional match warm up. And two, it's very rare that we practice a match warm up. The match warm up has a huge effect on the start of the match. And if you ever go to junior tournaments, a lot of players will start either really slow because they're nervous or tight, or they'll start a million miles an hour because they're nervous or tight. And especially in this day and age, there were things like fast four. The start of the match is quite key, and I've seen it a lot where if a player gets off to a slow start, or they get off to a start where they're nervous and anxious and they're trying to just absolutely belt everything, you could find yourself love free down within a couple of minutes. And in a fast four situation, it's not an easy look. It's not an easy situation for the player to deal with. And then all of a sudden you lose the first set 4-love and you think you're the world's worst tennis player. So how often do we practice a warm up? Do we try and get the players in the right frame of mind? And if you think back to when you play tennis, if you're a tennis coach, and I was thinking back when I played tennis, the warm up wasn't about working out my opponent's weaknesses. It wasn't working out, okay, am I going to be the better player here? It was just getting myself in the emotional state to play. So focus on my breathing. Again, the first lesson every single day, for the first 5 minutes of the session when I'm hitting, I'm just focusing on my breathing out on the ball, trying to get into a relaxed state. I'm also just trying to get a feel for the conditions. Like today, it's really warm outside. So I know when I go on court later on, that ball's going to be fizzing around quite a lot because of the heat. There's days when I go to work and it's really cold and overcast and the balls are quite heavy. So I'm just getting a feel for the conditions. I'm getting a feel for the environment. And that's what the pros do in those 5 minutes, which you'll see at Wimbledon or the US Open. They're getting a feel for the environment. And they want to get off to a good possible start. So they're trying to relax. They're trying to make lots of shots just to build up their confidence. And a lot of juniors, they don't get the opportunity to practice that. And their warms generally, they go out and they're trying to out-hit their opponent to sort of show dominance and show ego. Like, I'm going to be the better player here. They may be trying to move their opponent around to try and find weaknesses. But again, that's probably not the ideal time because, again, if you're spraying balls around, you're going to make more mistakes. And you may almost sort of look at your opponent and then find something that they're really good at and be quite frightened of it. And that might change your game plan. So the warm itself should be used to get yourself prepped, yourself ready for the match. And that then got me thinking on, like, how often do we practice things like toilet breaks? And this happened a few weeks back when we were having a session and it was a match play type of session. And the players are going off to the toilet and some of the other coaches were saying, okay, I'll jump in and hit with such and such because their opponent's on the toilet. I'm like, no, don't. Just let them deal with that. Let them deal with the toilet break because they're going to have to learn how to deal with that in a match. Like, they're going to have to learn how to deal with a 3, 4, 5 minute interruption. Okay, so they're going to have to work on maintaining their focus, staying warm, and like that. This is a great learning opportunity. And then over the past sort of couple of days, I've been thinking more and more about it. Like, how often do we practice line calls, like line disputes? And if you're always training in these fluffy environments where players are just rallying and they're trading and there's no consequence, there's no intention to the drill, there's no points, then you're not going to get the that was in, that was out arguments. And that, again, will have a huge impact in matches. And then you can really start to unpack the layers more of the onion. How often do we get the players to change ends? How often do we practice the change of ends? Like, are players practicing taking those 90 seconds out, having a drink, reflecting, thinking about their behavior, thinking about what they're going to change? Doesn't happen. And I've been guilty of this as well. Like I don't change ends that much in lessons. I don't get the players to change ends. And we have to give the player that experience. And the place where I work, you've got a balcony. Generally speaking, I'll get the player with the back to the balcony because I don't want them looking at the parents. And I'll probably spend the whole lesson with the individual with the back to the balcony. And I was thinking about it today. Well, that's not great because they're going to have to get used to playing with their parents in their view, in their field of vision. And if I'm always creating a fake environment where they can't see the parents, when they get to a match and the parents behind the fence, they're going to have to learn how to deal with that environment and deal with that situation. So again, I'm creating a fake environment there to try and protect the player, but I'm not really protecting them. I'm putting them in a situation where they're not going to then have the tools or the skills to deal with that situation in a match. So things like toilet breaks, change of ends, pre-match warm-up, stuff that we can do in lessons. Like, we can incorporate that stuff in lessons. And again, thinking about it, like, how often do we practice the time in between points? Because generally speaking, we're in a training environment because we've got the time pressure. It's ball in play, ball in play, ball in play. But we're not allowing the players to have that 20-second self-reflection, calm themselves down, reset. It's normally straight in, straight in, straight in. Or it's a case of the coach will intervene and they'll give their opinion, not allowing the players to self-reflect. All those things I've just talked about are potential turning points in matches. And if you ever listen or read Alistair Hyam's Momentum of Tennis, and he's got a great course and a great website, please check him out. And those turning points are key. The toilet break can change the momentum of a match. A line call can change the momentum. The fact that a change of ends and a player resets and reflects in a positive way can change the momentum of a match. And we get so focused and obsessed with the 20 seconds of tennis, we don't take consideration the environment of the match. And I say this a lot now, don't I, really? But the environment is key. The environment will affect the player. And do we set up a more representative learning environment? And it goes back to my age-old thing of, okay, we're teaching these kids ballet when we've got to get them ready for a mixed martial arts fight. And that will mean putting them in a situation where it feels like a match, where the changing ends. Well, you have a 5-minute, very strict warm-up where you give them the ability to have time in between points. Because then when you get into the match situation, hopefully it just becomes a norm and the player is comfortable in that environment. Just my thoughts of the day. As always, if you're enjoying these videos, check out mytenniscoaching.com. Head over to My Tennis Coach Academy as well under the Coach Mastery tab. And until tomorrow's video, take care and I'll see you soon.